Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Gemini Kast. My name is Gerard Katz, and I will be your host today. And today I'm also joined by a familiar voice, Mr. Josh Caudle.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, so today we have an interesting one. Per a fan request, we're actually going to do a deep dive into a developer of a video game, kind of talk about their history with franchises, the future of the franchises that they currently control. And I thought, what better one to start with than Ubisoft? I'm a pretty big Ubisoft fan in terms of a lot of their games. I've played very many of them. And Josh here has played quite a few of them as well. Name some of your favorite, if you could, just games from this developer.
Favorite up there for sure is Far Cry 3.
Excellent
and
game.
Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're going to dive into Far Cry's, Assassin's Creed, the many Tom Clancy games, and much, much more. Like I said, thank you all for joining us this week, and we'll go ahead and get started with number 1. I figured we could talk about Far Cry. Like you said, Far Cry 3 is one of your favorite games, and I think that series kind of peaked at Far Cry 3. I don't know if you would agree with that.
I played a few hours of 4, and I didn't play 5. But I played a whole lot of 3. It's a truly excellent game.
I think one of the big things is the gameplay has stayed pretty consistently good throughout all of them. They are fun games no matter what. That being said, Far Cry 3 kind of hit the peak of like amazing gameplay combined with a compelling story. They, one of the things that, it's a video gamey thing in general, but games very frequently will have you be a character who it doesn't make sense that you kill people, but you're just okay with killing them anyway. And
such as like Tomb Raider type games.
Tomb Raider, Uncharted, all that kind of stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense that you just murder people, but you do. And Far Cry 3 tackles that pretty early on of like, you're just this kid who, when he kills his first person because he needs to survive, he is freaked out by it. Like, truly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it is an uncomfortable situation for him to be in.
He's like debating the morality of it. Has like a whole internal dilemma.
And I think in general, so in Far Cry 4 you play as another named protagonist, but in 5 they kind of ditch that all together and make you play as pre-built or like a custom character, someone
like
you design.
Yeah.
And I think that series kind of loses something with that, rather than having you play a character story who you're like walking through. You're now like this voiceless nobody, and it's just not as compelling for that series, is what I would say.
Yeah, it went from like a Witcher style RPG to more of like a Skyrim style RPG.
And like,
where you're just like a faceless person.
Games like Skyrim definitely have their place. Like, I love Skyrim. Like, being able to craft your own character is great, but in a narrative driven story like we've seen Far Cry able to do, that's, I mean, not the greatest change in my opinion.
Yeah, because the story in Far Cry 3 was very good.
Yeah, and not to mention Voss as a villain. Such a good villain.
Excellent.
And I had read... Go ahead.
He was very compelling in like a psychotic way. Like really, really smart, but also just kind of unhinged.
He's also pretty iconic in video game culture now. Like, everyone, whether you've played the games or not, everyone knows who Voss is.
Or at least has seen his face.
And that monologue that he'll continue to go through in the story, do you know the definition of insanity? That's like another just like key part of his character. That Pagan Min from 4 is like an okay villain, but like he doesn't even come close to what Voss is.
Nah.
And
before I actually played the game, I thought Voss was the main character, just because he's the guy on the cover. It's like that for a good reason.
And the other thing is,
dude.
I talk to people about it pretty regularly, and it's been a while since I played Far Cry 3. Most people forget that, like, even in Far Cry 3, Voss isn't the main villain. Like, no. you kill him about 2/3 of the way through, and then go to another main villain, and I don't even remember what that guy's name is. Like, he does not compare to what Voss is.
He didn't have the same level of personality.
And then that game also does really well the whole Far Cry crazy, over-the-top gunplay with just chaos going around it. It had the really intricate It's the first game I can remember of like being able to let loose wild animals in environments and
I
have
love the
them
wild animals.
do stuff. You'd like
Hmm.
sneak up to an area and see like a caged bear or something and just shoot the cage and let the bear go crazy.
Because a lot of the villains were like they were like poachers, right? Or like they would
Hmm.
sell exotic endangered animals. That was like their backstory, right? So a lot of times they would have these exotic animals kept in cages, and so if you shoot the cages that have these lepers or what is like a tapir,
Yeah, the tapirs.
the tapirs, and then like the animals will be pissed and just run and like wreak havoc throughout the base.
And even if the base didn't have any, there was a mechanic where when you kill animals, you can get bait off of them if you like loot
Hmm.
them, and then throw the bait into a camp, and it'll attract animals to it who will just show up and wreak havoc.
Yeah, the game had a lot of really neat skills that you would unlock, such as
Hmm.
that. I like how it struck a pretty good balance between stealthy like assassinations and more like aggressive charging guns blazing type of gameplay.
It's one of those games. A lot of companies will advertise their game as play it any way you want. You can play stealthy, you can play aggressive.
Hmm. It's
But
easy to say, but they really nailed it.
yeah, they do such a good job. I played through most of that game with a bow and arrow and a silenced sniper rifle, and like almost never stepped foot into the compounds until after I had killed everyone.
Hmm.
And I know
I
that's
think
very
personally, I
different.
used the I used the sniper and then a silenced SMG,
And I know
just
that's very
because.
different. Our friend Tanner, he actually used just uh, light machine guns the entire time. He'd just walk in full armor and mow people down.
I would do that every now and again too. It's good fun.
And that's
Another
just
thing that I love about the two islands was a lot of games have an issue with a lackluster end game, whereas like you spend all these resources and EXP whatever leveling up, becoming a super badass, and then the game kind of ends. In Far Cry 3, the first half of the game, the first island, you start like becoming a badass, and then in the second half, you just spend the game being a badass,
mhm.
which was just really really fun to like have multiple bases, tons of new areas to explore as like a maxed out character.
One of the few other games I can think of that does something like that is Prototype. They have you
Hmm.
start that first mission with like all the powers, and you're like, oh, this is what it feels like. And then you
Yeah.
like lose them all and have to build your way back up to that.
Hmm.
And
It kind of shows you off the bat like this is the potential.
and by about halfway through that game, you are incredible.
Once you get that the giant sword arm,
Hmm.
you just slice through everything.
Both games do such a good job at making you feel unstoppable once you have kind of hit that progression point.
Yeah.
It did a lot of other cool things. The driving was kind of okay. The hunting was really fun. I typically don't hunt in games like ever,
Yeah.
but it was directly tied to upgrading how many weapons you could carry or how much ammo you could have, stuff like that. So it was a worthwhile thing to go hunting.
Yeah, hunting was a big point in Red Dead Redemption 2 when I
Hmm.
played through that. That's like a big emphasis, right? And I wasn't really drawn to it personally. Like I would every now and again, but that wasn't really that fun for me. But Far Cry 3, just something about it was different. Like using the materials you gather to craft better gear. It was just a good time.
And then
Just fun.
I've never played it, but one of the cool mechanics I hear about Far Cry 2 is it had like a malaria system where you had to
Really?
consistently take antibiotics to bring down your malaria levels, and if they got too high, then you just like die. And
That's
like
actually really funny.
that's such a cool mechanic. And then like 4 and 5 both have their cool stuff. Like there's some gameplay mechanically cool stuff in there. I really like in 5. I played through the whole game with Tanner. Um,
Hmm.
Beginning to end, we just played through the whole campaign, and that was really fun to do, which you can't do in the old ones. Like that is a really fun game to play in co-op.
Does 3 have multiplayer?
It had a multiplayer like versus mode, but not a
Hmm.
cooperative thing. And then 4 had a cooperative thing, but it was only certain missions. 5 was the first one that was fully cooperative, beginning to end. You could do everything together.
Okay, I see. I played a few minutes of Far Cry 1 I think I got it on sale for like $1 or something. But your character has like a body, like you look down and you see like your torso, and that just threw me off. I'm
I
not used to that in first-person shooters.
never played one. I'm pretty sure I own it. It's probably one of the thousands of Steam games that I have that I got in some sale at some point.
Yeah.
Uh, but I hear, I mean, at the time that was pretty well regarded as a very good game. Same with 2. And as much as I haven't liked the direction of the story, they have stayed consistently good in terms of gameplay, I would say.
Do you know why it's called Far Cry?
No idea.
Because Far Cry means like a big leap, right? Like, oh, it's a far cry from so and so, as in like a big, like a large gap, and I just don't see the connection there.
I'm not sure. Let me.
But also, I didn't really play the first 2, so maybe they explained it then.
Let's see. Because the islands are a far cry from civilization. They always take place in distant
Okay.
locations, with the exception of 5, because that takes place in Montana.
Yeah, but the 5th game in the series is kind of a, they're gonna take some branches from the origins.
Yeah, it was kind of an outlier from the other ones. But yeah,
Did you ever play? Was it Blood Dragon?
I played some of it. It was really fun. It had some of the funniest writing in a video game, I think.
Yeah.
There's like weapon logs for all the weapons you can get, and the one for the bow says, "It's a bow and arrow. What more do you need to know?" or something like that.
Yep.
Like
it's not too much explaining to do there.
and
It's a curved stick with a string on it.
it does like a lot of like really funny stuff, like video gamey stuff, where in the beginning you have a tutorial and your guy's like, "Oh my gosh, can we be done with this? Like, I know how to play a game."
Oh, I almost forgot. I did beat Far Cry 4.
Did you do the fake ending?
I did. I did not play through the whole game, but I did beat it.
So
Took
all
me
the
about,
Far Cry games
15
have
minutes.
that secret ending where you can like. There's a moment in the very beginning where if you just don't do anything, the game just ends and the villain gets what they want.
All of them have that, you said?
I think 3, 4, and 5 have it. Maybe not 3.
I didn't know about 3 or 5.
4
But
and
at
5
the beginning
both
of
have
4,
it.
Pagan Min says, "I'll be right back. Wait right here." And if you just wait there for like 10 minutes, he just comes back with, what are you looking for? Like your passport? or
You're
something?
trying to deliver your mother's ashes. And
Yeah,
he's like,
he-
"Oh, it's right over here. You can just come drop them off."
Yep.
And
So
then
he's not such a bad guy after all.
in 5, you're supposed to be putting handcuffs on Joseph Seed, I think is his name. And you can just like not put the handcuffs on him. And then like the game's over.
Cool.
So yeah, they all have, at least 4 and 5 have that weird ending. And then I kind of like their branch offs with like Blood Dragon and Primal. I know Primal was met with some
Oh yeah.
mixed reception, but
It was like kind of a half sequel, right? Like it was the same map,
that's what
and
all of them
the
pretty much
same-
are.
the same like engine, I suppose.
I think 3, Blood Dragon, is the same map as the second island, just like in
It's
a
like
whole new...
Crazy purple stuff.
Yeah.
everywhere.
And then Primal's the same map as 4, just prehistoric. Which Far Cry, I think Primal's the only one I didn't really play too much of. But 5 was really unique and different, and I had read a leak recently that they might bring Voss back for a future installment, which
But
would have to be a
he's
prequel of
dead?
some sort, I guess.
To the Lazarus pits.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they somehow figured out how to bring him back to life, like, I guess. But yeah,
They got Voodoo Hoodoo stuff.
Far Cry, great series. For me, it's been on a downslope a little bit recently, but, you know, games have their ups and downs, so...
Sure.
Another big Ubisoft series is Assassin's Creed, which I know you played several of the first entries and then
I
kind
played
of fell
all
off.
the entries up through 4 Black Flag.
Okay, so you played 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, and 4.
And some of Origins.
Okay,
I didn't beat it.
I played 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, 3, 4, some of Rogue, some of Unity, some of Syndicate, some of Origins, and I'm almost done with Odyssey. I think that's all
Man,
of
they
them.
just keep making those, don't they?
Yeah, and then there's a new one coming out this year, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But those games are definitely not what they used to be.
That series has changed so much.
It,
They've added a couple good things, a couple bad things, but
I
it's
really,
been a whole lot of change.
I really like Odyssey. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
My biggest problem with Odyssey is I don't understand how it's an Assassin's Creed game because I don't assassinate anyone. And maybe I'm just playing it wrong, but to me, it used to be if a bunch of guys showed up, you kind of needed to run. You most likely weren't going to win if like 4 or 5 guys were there. But now...
I disagree with that.
Really?
Yeah, I think the only game that would really be considered a stealthy game was the first one.
Yeah.
Maybe the second one. But definitely not Brotherhood Revelations.
Definitely not 4, I guess, either. Like, you can kind of do whatever you want. I mean, I think there was a heavy emphasis on stealth, but you weren't required to do it, I guess. But, like, there's not even an emphasis on it in the new ones. Like, you just walk into a camp and just beat people to death with your sword. And there's a Spartan kick mechanic where you just climb up on top of buildings and kick people off the back of the buildings, and they die from fall damage.
I mean, that's assassination, right?
But it's... I mean, I guess it just feels different, because, like, it feels like I'm cheating, because, like, they have levels now, so, like, I'll find a guy who's, like, 3, 4, 5 levels above me, I'll walk to the top of a building, and I'll just kick him off the side, and, like, boom, done. Like, I didn't even have to, like, do anything.
I mean, that's how it works. No matter how skilled you are with the blade, someone's just gonna come up behind you and push you out the building.
It feels weird, because you don't have the hidden blade in Odyssey.
You don't?
No, there's a DLC for Odyssey called Origins of the Hidden Blade or something like that talks about the first Hidden Blade. But throughout the base game, you don't have it. You can still assassinate people, but it's based on your level. So, like, if a guy is too high of a level and you try and assassinate him, you'll only deal, like, half damage to him. Which is why the Spartan kick feels weird that's a one-hit kill because you're having gravity do the work.
Whereas, that sounds almost like Sekiro.
Really?
And its death blow system.
I didn't play Sekiro.
I don't know how much you've seen of it, but before you kill enemies, you have to do a death blow. Well, I guess that is killing the enemies. But once you lower their health enough or break their posture, like a glowing red indicator appears, and then you do a death blow, which is like, a fatal stab, whatever, and that kills them. And for most, like, regular enemies, they only need 1. But a lot of bosses and mini-bosses require 2 or even 3. So that's kind of like you sneak up behind someone and assassinate them. It's a kill, but they have like a second death blow, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually like a strategy for a lot of the harder bosses. Like there was one guy that had 2 death blow, like death mark counters, whatever. And so fighting him like twice in a row was extremely difficult. But what you could do was sneak up behind him, do an assassination and get the insta-kill, and then that he has 1 death blow left, and then you find like normal and kill him like once for real. And that kind of sounds like the same type of mechanic, like it's a half assassination.
I've always felt like you should be able to, in the Assassin's Creed games, if you wanted to, sneak through the whole thing, assassinate everyone. And like that's not really an option now, because if you sneak through and try and assassinate someone and you only deal half damage, well, they're going to scream and call for their friends. And, like, stealth is gone. Like, it seems like there's almost not an option for stealth. And, I mean, part of it is, like, it is based on your level, so, like, you shouldn't be going to areas where you can't one-shot people. But it's also an open-world game now, like, much more open. So, like, it feels like that's a weird restriction. Like, hey, you can go wherever you want, but don't go there yet.
Yeah, in Odyssey, you just go wherever.
And I don't know, it just, I feel like that's kind of mixed messaging coming from them. I like the gameplay, I think it's fun, I just miss the stealth. Like, it's not Assassin's Creed anymore, it's almost The Witcher.
Like, really, after the first one, stealth became optional. Like, unless a mission specifically said don't be detected, you were fine just charging in and killing dudes.
But I think the difference is...
It's just because Altair is just not overpowered. The same point as, like, Ezio or Connor or Edward or the later Assassins, where, like, in the first one, combat was actually pretty difficult. So if you were good at the game enough, you could just fight anyone who showed up. But afterwards, like in Brotherhood, there was a mechanic where you would just hit counter, and so wait for them to attack, hit counter, and then it's an instant kill. And then from there, you can just chain kills together. So if there was like 8 dudes around you, wait for the first one to attack, and then you just chain kill all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But it
you
still
didn't
felt like
need to sneak around.
in those games, it was optional, but it was an option. It almost doesn't feel like an option in the new ones. Like, that's not something that's very viable.
And judging from that, the gameplay leak of Valhalla, it looks like the same deal with that game. Like, you just kind of... I didn't see a stealth thing at all.
Valhalla looks pretty much just like a reskin of Odyssey, which, in all honesty, I liked Odyssey. I'm okay with that. I like the Norse setting more than the ancient Greece setting, so like I'm pretty excited to dive into that world. Yeah. But
well, in fairness, Revelations was also almost identical to Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm. And Syndicate was almost identical to Unity.
Yeah.
So
for a game that comes out almost every year, like, they're not going to make huge changes every single time.
I think it's definitely benefited them the couple of times that they've taken a year off. Like Valhalla, they took a year off between Odyssey and Valhalla. So maybe there's some cool mechanics that we just haven't seen yet in the new one. And they took a year off between Syndicate and Origins, which some people might not like the direction that Origins went for the series, but I would say it's definitely still a good game. Like, it sold very well. It is a full-fledged RPG in a pretty interesting world. Like, if that's your cup of tea, like, they made a good game. Because I think there are very few people who would argue that, like, Syndicate was a step in the right direction for the series.
Yeah. I would rather them try something new and maybe have it not work out all that well than just kind of keep releasing the same rehashed stuff over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And more on that, listen to our Pokemon episode.
Yeah, we talked quite a bit about that there.
Just rehashing the same mechanics over and over and over again year after year.
I mean, there are some definite influences in these newer ones. Like, they feel almost kind of similar to Witcher in some regards in terms of, like, being able to choose your equipment and branching storylines.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the gameplay they show for Valhalla, at first glance, I could see someone mistaking it for Witcher.
That's what it reminded me of. The whole time I was watching that, I was like, this reminds me of something. And it's Witcher. It looks like it plays very similar to Witcher.
Which is not a bad thing. Witcher 3 was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a good thing. But yeah, I just would love some classic Assassin's Creed. Even if they brought it in like a completely new IP, like a brand new series. I just miss stealth games. They don't really exist anymore. I guess we have like Dishonored, which is really good. I like Dishonored, but that's about it.
I would say Sekiro also has pretty good stealth.
Yeah.
Sneak up on enemy. You can fight enemies, hand to hand like normal, or you can sneak up on them and assassinate them. And both ways work perfectly fine. If that style suits you.
Well, to talk more about stealth games, we'll now jump into one of Ubisoft's other more far-reaching series, the Tom Clancy series, where Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell has not existed since Blacklist on the 360, and I love those games, and they're just gone. They don't exist anymore, they don't make them, they just are gone. And I don't know why, because people love those games, and they're very fun. And, like, they are one of those few series that you can count on none of the games being amazing 10 out of 10s, but all of them being solid 7 or 8s. Like, they're all very good games.
Just consistent.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. Like,
did they just not sell super well?
I'm not sure. Blacklist, I think, came out in 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
And like I said, that was for the 360, so we haven't even had one on the Xbox One or PS4. So they skipped an entire generation, basically.
Yeah.
With the exception of, they have in Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, there's a mission where you can run into Sam Fisher, the main character of Splinter Cell. Which, I mean, I guess that's representation, but it's not a game. The same. Yeah.
It's not the same.
But Tom Clancy games are pretty divisive, I'd say, in terms of quality. Ghost Recon have been hit or miss. I liked Wildlands. Breakpoint was hit with so many bugs at release. That game was a mess. The Division tried to leech off the Destiny money and just didn't quite hit the mark with the first one. And then, from what I understand, the second one is much, much better than the first one. But they kind of lost their shot. No one was willing to give them the second chance after how poorly the first Division did.
I just couldn't get into how every enemy was like a huge bullet sponge.
I think they tackled that a little bit better in 2, in terms of, like, when you shoot people in 2, armor, like, pops off of them, and then once they don't have armor, 1 or 2 bullets and they're dead. Which, that was people's, like, biggest complaints with the first one, is, like, you shoot a guy, like, 50 times, and he's just, like, marching at you with a minigun. So, like,
bullets are like, basically just Nerf darts.
Which, I guess, like, Destiny can get away with, because, like, they're alien/robots.
Alien stuff,
so,
yeah,
like,
sure.
But the Division, they're very clearly just human dudes. Like,
yeah.
No amount of armor is going to stop 50 LMG rounds from penetrating you.
Yeah, bulletproof vests are not invincible, you know? Like, they can take a couple shots before the integrity starts to wear out.
And then other games that they have, like Rainbow Six, I mean, it had a very rocky start. We play it every now and then with our friend Rice. It's, for us, a very casual game. I know it has a pretty hardcore fan following, but it's definitely worked its way back up. It started very not great and has become a much better game. And
yeah, I'm truly amazed at its longevity.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I, at first, didn't love the idea of having actual season passes. So games call it a season pass and you get all the DLC. But for Rainbow Six, a season pass is 1 year's worth of content. And then there's a year 2 season pass and a year 3 season pass. At first, I didn't love that, but it kind of works with the model of that game. Instead of releasing a brand new game every year, you pay the $30, I think it is, to get the season pass. So. You get all the new characters, and if you don't want to pay for it, and you're going to play the game a bunch, you can just unlock them by playing the game a bunch. So, like, you can just wait and unlock the operators that you want, which is kind of cool. They've said that they want that game to hit 100 operators or 10 years, whichever comes first, before making a sequel. They've already announced that it's coming to the Series X and the PS5. So I think that game is planned to stick around for quite a while now.
I mean, it's almost 5 years old right this year, and it's still going strong.
Yeah, they still have new
Very
content planned for it. That's another one. I had heard rumors that there was going to be a... So the game's operators are split into different, like, factions. So there's, like, the FBI and the CIA and foreign military groups and whatnot. I heard a rumor that the military group from Splinter Cell is going to be where the new operators are from, which sounds really cool because they're, like, all future tech and stuff.
That's pretty neat.
But once again, I just want actual Splinter Cell to come back.
You'll see some Splinter Cell technology in Rainbow Six.
I guess. But yeah, so... Neat. Rainbow Six, still a very strong game. Ubisoft, I gotta give them props. They stuck with that game despite all of the hate and anger that fans had when it first came out.
Yeah, when it first came out, I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's neat. And I didn't really think much more of it. And then a year later, I was like, oh, it's still going strong. And then a year after that, I was like, wow, it's still really popular. And that was 2 years ago. So it definitely is going strong.
It's a solid game. Anywhere. Some of Ubisoft's other franchises that we'll just mention real quick. They make the Rayman series, which we haven't had a new Rayman game in a long time. That being said, they have so many Raving Rabbids things. Those Rabbids are like minions. Like, they're just the minions of the video game world. They're just, like, everywhere. With that being said, they had some huge success with Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which was a partnership with Nintendo to make a XCOM-style Mario game that had, like, Rabid versions of the Mario characters as well. Like, there's Rabid Mario, Rabid Luigi, Rabid Princess Peach, and so on. And it was, like, actually a really good game. I remember that game got leaked before, like, the artwork for it, and I was like, what is this horrendous nonsense?
It looks pretty weird. Just visually, it looks strange, but I played a few minutes of the gameplay and it was pretty solid.
I'm a huge XCOM fan, and it's pretty similar to like that style of gameplay, and it was really good. I enjoyed it, and they had a really solid DLC for it as well. They also later went on to make Starlink Battle for Atlas, which they partnered with Nintendo again to bring Star Fox characters kind of back into the mainstream, because we haven't had a Star Fox game in a while. So it seems like Ubisoft is one of the few companies that Nintendo is okay giving their IP to work with, because Nintendo is notoriously protective of their IP. They don't want anyone messing with that.
No, they're quite stingy.
Yeah. Another great series, in my opinion, is Watch Dogs. It's one that the tech is always pretty interesting, but those games always just kind of miss their mark. We were kind of talking about it before the show started, but you didn't even know that Watch Dogs 2 existed.
No, I did not. I missed it.
Watch Dogs 1 was...
I thought the one coming out, I thought Legion was the second one.
No, Legion is the third one. Watch Dogs 1, when it came out, was like supposed to be this amazing technological marvel, and just didn't quite hit that note. It kind of had some mixed reception when it came out. And then same with 2. I played a lot more of 2. I enjoyed it. It was really fun. It had some cool stuff in it, but it still just kind of didn't hit the mainstream the way that they wanted it to. It's clearly supposed to be a competitor for Grand Theft Auto, which, like, I think Grand Theft Auto's kind of got that market cornered.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to take that beast down.
In the year 2020, if you want to play a GTA-style game, you're going to play GTA 5.
Mm-hmm. Which, we'll talk a little bit about Watch Dogs Legions later as well, which I'm pretty excited for, but hopefully they can kind of hit what they're trying to go for. And then...
I didn't play the first 2, but the trailer definitely looked interesting, and I like what I'm reading about it.
Mm-hmm. And then Ubisoft also makes, still released on the Wii, year to year, Just Dance.
To clarify, that's not the Wii U.
No.
That's the
I
the
believe
Nintendo Wii.
They still release it on the Wii U as well, but they also still release it on the Wii. And
that is just amazing.
The Wii is going on, I don't even know how many years old, but like no one
15?
makes Wii games anymore, so I don't understand how.
I believe it came out in 05?
Well, that sounds about right. I just don't know off the top of my head. It's just crazy
06.
to me that they can still make a game for that system, and it still sells so well.
It'll turn 14 this year.
But, like, people still own their Wiis just to play Just Dance. Like,
I feel like our gaming circle doesn't really hear about it, because Just Dance for the Wii is not comparable at all to the other games we've been talking about. Like, the people who play Just Dance are not playing Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or Rainbow Six Siege. It's like kind of its own little niche. It's more like the Wii Sports type of genre.
And the thing that's just like amazing about it is I used to work at, well, I still do. I work at a different video game store, and the amount of people who would come in and buy Just Dance for the Wii every year was astonishing. Every year you could count on Just Dance being one of our sale games for Black Friday, and every year we would sell out at the end of Black Friday. It was just amazing. The people who wanted it bought it every single year.
Was it mostly like children?
It was mostly children or like family settings, like people who wanted to play that game in like a family environment, which I mean is fine. Like that's kind of what the Wii was going for. Like that was the Wii's target market, was like a family. So the fact that it's still able to kind of hit that this far after it had come out, not one console generation after, but 2, that's remarkable.
Imagine if a new PS2 game came out. That'd just be crazy. This far after the series or the generation stopped being produced.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure when the last Just Dance will come out for Wii. That's just crazy.
I bet a lot more people are playing the Wii than they are PS2 or Xbox. Well, I can't say Xbox One, but the first Xbox.
The original Xbox, yeah.
The Xbox version 1.
I mean, in fairness, though,
I guess
the Wii has stuff on it that, like, you can't experience it in the same way elsewhere. Like, if you want to play Wii Sports, which is incredibly fun, that's your only way to play something like that, is like Wii Sports. And it's just like a fun thing. Like other places have tried to, like even on the Switch, they try and have games similar for like a family or like party environment, and it's just not the same. Like Wii Sports nailed that, and like Just Dance kind of is in that same boat.
Mm-hmm. We mentioned it earlier, but Nintendo has never been afraid of branching out and trying new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of bit them with the Wii U. Like, they tried something, it didn't really work, but they improved it and came back with the Switch, which has been excellent.
I mean, in fairness, without the Wii U, I don't think the Switch would have quite been what it is. Like, you can definitely see the changes that they took from the Wii U to the Switch. So
yeah. The Wii U tried to improve the Wii in a certain way, and it kind of fell flat. But then they looked at what worked and what didn't, and fixed those issues.
Mm-hmm.
And we're left with a really, really good console that's probably going to last for a long time.
Oh yeah, the Switch is, I think, around for the long haul. It's such a great system.
And I can't wait to see what they come up with afterwards.
Yeah.
It's going to be something that's going to be... It's going to sound dumb. Like, we're going to hear about it, and it's going to be like, what are they thinking?
The
it's gonna
new
be awesome.
Switch Lite U2.
The Nintendo Switch U.
Yeah. Knowing Nintendo, it's going to have the dumbest name on the planet. But back to Ubisoft, the only other big kind of like, I won't even call it a franchise because there's only one game in the series, is For Honor, which kind of had a very similar problem to Rainbow Six at the beginning. It just launched with very mediocre reception. And since then, it has apparently come a long way with a lot of new content, just as Rainbow Six has. However, it hasn't quite hit the vast populace. It has its very niche, small target audience who still love and support the game, but it hasn't quite hit the viral mainstream like I think they wanted to.
You said it was just the one game?
Yeah, they only have one For Honor.
What about 2 Honor and 3 Honor?
No, those didn't exist. They just skipped straight to 4 Honor.
I can't wait for 5 Honor.
Yeah.
You can't just start with 4. That makes no sense. I want to play 1 Honor.
But yeah, that's kind of a rundown of a lot of the Ubisoft games, like kind of their main franchises. Clearly, they have made a lot of other games. Back before Far Cry, they kind of made some Batman games. They had some hands in the Indiana Jones franchise on the NES. They had like a lot of other stuff. But this is kind of where they are in the market currently. These are the games that they make.
They're top sellers.
Yeah. These are what people think about when they think of Ubisoft. But now with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a break for a moment and have a word from our sponsors. And welcome back, everybody. So in the beginning, we talked a lot about games that already exist that Ubisoft has made. And now I'd like to talk about, they have several upcoming games that seem to be pretty exciting, some new stuff for them. So I figured we could dive into a couple of those, starting with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which we discussed a little bit. It looks to keep the same trend of being this action RPG rather than a stealth combat game. It looks to keep having those Witcher vibes to it. And in all honesty, to me, it looks pretty fun. Like I said, I've been playing quite a bit of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And if this is just more Assassin's Creed Odyssey in this updated engine for the next-gen systems set in a Norse world, I mean, that's pretty exciting for me. I don't know how you feel having seen... They had about 30 minutes of leaked gameplay.
Yeah, well, I'm hesitant to judge a game based off of, like, leaked gameplay for one. Also, it's still in development. So I don't want to give, like, a judgment on how it looks just yet. We'll wait till they officially release stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more about it. Like I said, I've enjoyed where the franchise has gone. I just am curious as to why they're still called Assassin's Creed, especially
the
this
title
one.
Holds weight.
I mean, that's true. Like, if they had renamed them, they wouldn't sell as much as if this game was just called Valhalla. It wouldn't sell as much as Assassin's Creed Valhalla, even if they're not completely related. But yeah. I mean, it looks kind of cool. I'm excited to see more about it. One of their other upcoming...
You know this, but I have been getting really into God of War, and so I'm like all into the Norse mythology.
Oh yeah.
So I did not play Odyssey, but if it's like an open world action RPG about Norse mythology, I'm interested. Oh, and I'm looking forward to seeing more content about it.
It's sad to say that one of the only games I can think of that tackles Norse mythology is God of War, because that's such an interesting, like, setting. Like, there is so much cool stuff to be done there. And I know, like,
had probably the most interesting, like, mythological pantheon. Like, I just think the gods are more interesting than Greek or Roman or Egyptian.
And I also think that's just kind of a cultural thing. Like, Egyptian and Greek gods are kind of more in everyday conversation. Like,
probably not Egyptian though.
Not
like
every day.
Set, Ra.
That's true. But Greek specifically, like, those are like pretty well known, pretty common. I know several people who, after playing God of War, had to like go look up who like a lot of these people were, because that's kind of a new thing, especially here in America. I mean, Thor obviously is pretty mainstream with Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that. Same with like
but like they don't really tackle the mythological part in the MCU. It's more like he is a character who has a hammer and lightning powers. He's not really the same personality as the mythical Thor.
Yeah, and also like Greek gods are just, or not Greek gods, but Norse gods are kind of just like dicks.
They're
like
huge
all of them.
Dicks. I mean,
like,
really. I mean, so are the Greek gods. Or
Yeah, but like the Greek gods are like petty and like conniving, and like the Norse gods are like these people who will
kill
just
each other constantly,
rip each other's heads off at the slightest upset.
Like, Odin's a bad dude.
Yeah, I mean,
so is Thor. Like,
Thor is not the MCU portrayal of Thor,
no,
like at all.
MCU Thor is like one of my favorite characters. He's very, very charismatic, very funny. But like, the actual Norse Thor is the crazy person.
And I'm very excited to see if Assassin's Creed does add in a lot of the actual Norse mythology instead of just like the time period. Like Assassin's Creed Odyssey has a couple mythological fights where you like fight a Gorgon, you fight Medusa, you fight like a giant, a Cyclops, stuff like that. And I'm interested to see if Valhalla has like some of those aspects brought into it. That would be pretty cool.
You know, now that I think about it, I actually hope they don't, because I'm playing God of War, which is about fighting those mythical monsters and mythical characters, and I kind of think that the series should play to its strengths. So leave the huge monster fighting to God of War, and then if you want to be a Viking doing Viking stuff, play Assassin's Creed.
So it is very much a divisive thing about Assassin's Creed Odyssey, whether people liked the fact that you could fight those or not. I think it's very interesting because almost none of it is required. All of it is like optional, like side stuff that you can go do. And so I think if they kept it like that in Valhalla, it was like an option to go fight some of these Norse mythological beasts. That would be really cool. Being part of the main story, that doesn't quite float my boat, but... one of their next upcoming games, though, is God and Monsters, which was announced to be like a cartoony version of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. It's set with Greek pantheons fighting Greek monsters in like a huge open world arena. There was also some leaked gameplay of that, and the UI looks almost identical to Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That being said, a lot of people are saying it seems to draw from Breath of the Wild, which we haven't seen almost any official gameplay for it yet, so I think it's a bit early to kind of compare the two. But
I'm getting that feel.
Yeah, and Ubisoft has a history of taking the aspects of games, of their Assassin's Creed games that were very popular and making spin-offs with them. That being said, none of them have ever come out, which is our next game, Skull and Bones. This game was announced in 2017 to be released in 2018. We are now in the year 2020. Still no mention of this game. Haven't seen it in years.
They made a trailer for it and then just dipped.
Yeah, it's supposed to be just the ship combat from Assassin's Creed Black Flag, which the new games have ship combat. But, like, I feel like they've kind of missed their mark. Like, people were asking for this right after Assassin's Creed Black Flag because they liked the ship combat. Like, that time has kind of passed almost at this point.
Yeah, you see certain trends in media, in general, movies, games, whatnot. Like, zombies were really big for a couple of years there, in like the early 2010s, and they've since kind of dropped off a little bit. And then now we're seeing like Norse stuff, like with God of War, with Valhalla. That's kind of gonna make a comeback. Gods and Monsters. I think the pirates craze is also kind of past.
It's just that game had its time, like in 2017, on the heels of Black Flag, which was such a popular game. Like, that would have been awesome. And then just now we don't know where it is or when it's coming out, and it seems to have no end date in sight.
These days, if I want to play a pirate game, I'll go play Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, like
that's a pretty fun
they've kind of missed it now. Like, Sea of Thieves has cornered that market, which is another one that started with kind of mixed reviews, but has since like come around as like the definitive pirate game.
Well, when it started off, I played it a good bit, and it was very fun. The mechanics were solid. It just had very little actual gameplay content.
I know it's like a cliche thing to say, and like people get upset when you say stuff like this.
You really feel like a pirate.
You do. You really feel like a pirate. Like when you're playing that game, you like hop on a ship with your buddies and like just go do piratey things. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's fun. Like, it is a very fun game, and like Skull and Bones is just, I don't know. It's just, I think that ship has sailed. No pun intended.
I was waiting for that. I don't know how many real pirates fought reanimated skeletons.
That's true.
I don't know how much of their time they spent collecting various colored pigs and chickens.
But, I mean, you know, it's still piratey and fun. Like,
it's like the cartoony pirate stuff.
Yeah.
Treasure maps and all that. It's good fun.
And then one of the next games that's supposed to be released sometime soon is Rainbow Six Quarantine, which is supposed to be like a single-player PvE Rainbow Six game, like set in the same universe as Rainbow Six Siege. The name is rather unfortunate, I would say, at present circumstances.
If they release this game in February, it would be a top seller.
I still think there would be some people who would be hesitant to buy a game with all of this going on named Quarantine.
I think it's appropriate.
It's like if Resident Evil 7 came out, the subtitle for that game was Biohazard. If that came out now, I don't know. Like, I think it would definitely lose some people. There are some people who would love to play a game like that, but I think it would lose some people with it just being a bit too real.
Is it coming out at the appropriate time? Because like we said just a minute ago, they don't want to miss the boat with these trends. At the same time, would it be in bad taste to come out during a pandemic?
I know, and I cannot believe that this exists, but in a similar circumstance, Rainbow Six Quarantine was announced before all this stuff happened. Like, before we knew about coronavirus and whatnot.
I'm sure it's not related.
In the same regards, though, there's a Magic card that came out that was printed and named and made before all of this came out, named Godzilla Death Corona, I think.
Let me look it up real quick.
And since that, they have renamed it to something else. It's like, I don't remember what it's called, but like, talk about an unfortunate time to name a card Death Corona.
The card was called Space Godzilla Death Corona.
Mm-hmm.
It was it's a big dude.
Yeah, and
8/8
like,
with a death touch.
That's just such I am amazed that happened so quickly right before all this kind of went down. Like, that is such a weird coincidence. But yeah, I think Rainbow Six Quarantine definitely has some appeal in terms of like PvE stuff. It kind of reminds me of like what Overwatch 2 is doing in terms of it'll still have its PvP, like its hardcore competitive scene, but it's also going to add like new narrative stuff to the franchise. Whereas like
people were asking for PvE Overwatch for a long time, and this looks like kind of filling a similar demand. Similarly,
I think Rainbow Six Siege has some interesting characters in it that like people would like some backstory on, which they get even less backstory for those compared to what we get for Overwatch. But
and just in case you're curious, they changed the card's name from Space Godzilla Death Corona to Space Godzilla Void Invader.
Void Invader.
Yeah,
I mean, I just think that's a better name anyway. Void Invader?
Okay, Death Corona? What's it even mean?
Like, outside of the context of what is happening now, what is that? Like, if that was just released and none of this had happened,
Because
I don't.
it looks like its name is Space Godzilla, and its title is like Death Corona.
Yeah.
Like Space Godzilla title Death Corona. What is that? Like, oh look out, it's the Death Corona. Like what?
That's. I'm very shocked as to how that name ever got printed in the first place, regardless of everything that's going on.
They knew. Wizards of the Coast, they're in on it.
And then the last game that is currently announced on Ubisoft's upcoming titles that I know of is Watch Dogs Legion. I'm positive there will be another Just Dance, just in case, before you start hounding me about another Just Dance. There will be one. I guarantee it. Hold your horses.
There will always be Just Dance.
But in the meantime, Watch Dogs Legion looks pretty cool. I know you just watched the trailer for it.
Yes.
My big hesitation with it is, as similarly to both of the previous games, the tech for it looks extremely promising. That being said, similarly to both of the previous ones, I don't know if it's going to hit the mark of being able to make that tech hit, like do exactly what it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So from all you've done is watch the trailer. Tell me like a rundown of kind of like what you think the gameplay is going to be.
Well, it looks like you're recruiting this sort of militia army, I suppose. Mm-hmm. I don't know the backstory to the first two Watch Dogs. I don't know if they're direct prequels or whatever, but it looks like London is on lockdown for some reason, and I don't know who the player character is, but you're like leading some resistance against what appears to be the military, and so you can recruit. The trailer says literally anyone, so I suppose that means you can look at people's backstories, and if you think they're qualified, you can, I guess, bring them in, and I guess train and otherwise brief them on your mission, and then from there send them out to go do stuff. I don't know if they're playable or not, but it looks pretty cool.
So you're almost right. The big thing is that trailer doesn't do a great job of showing. They showed that trailer immediately after the big announcement where they had like a deep dive into the gameplay. Mm-hmm. So you do not play as a specific character. You just play as like one of any of the NPCs in the game. Like you recruit people and you play as them, and then when you die, like they're dead, and then you start as a new NPC in your roster. And
so it's like the Middle Earth games playing as the orcs.
Yes. But literally every character is recruitable. Every single one. If you see some guy who's a security guard of a place that you have to get in, you can scan him, look up his backstory. This is one of the examples they gave, and find out that his wife is in the hospital awaiting an organ transplant. So you can go to the hospital, hack into their system, move her name up the transplant list, go back to him and say, hey, we did this. And the organization you play as is DedSec. You can say, hey, DedSec did this, come work for us. And he'll be like, okay, cool, and he'll come work for you. And then you don't have to sneak past him anymore.
That's kind of dark.
Yeah.
Just the implications there.
Like, everyone will have a reason to join you, and some people will be much more hesitant to. Like, some people just hate DedSec, and like you'll have to work hard to recruit them.
What if I want to recruit like a kindergarten teacher?
You can do it. You can recruit a kindergarten. If there is a kindergarten teacher in the game, you can recruit it. I mean, maybe not. One of the things that they show off in the trailer is you can just recruit this old lady. Like, she's like an ex-assassin. I love
that part.
You just recruit this old lady, and like you walk up to security guards and like tap them on the shoulder, and then she just domes him in the head. Like,
do you remember in the trailer for Captain Marvel, she punches like an old lady in the face?
Yeah.
The Watch Dogs people saw that and was like, that old lady's gonna strike back.
Yeah. It's
just the sweet old lady just taps a dude on his shoulder, caps him in the face.
There's so many different characters you can play as. All the different characters will have unique like animations and stuff. My question is to see how much of that is reused. Like, how much do all of these characters feel like individual characters? Are there really 50 options that are just kind of mix match, or are there like you're gonna have a completely different roster than me? Like, that's the part of the tech I'm curious to see if it truly does what they're claiming it does. How many options are there actually?
I'm sure it'll have to be mixed matched, right? But the question is there enough variety for it to not feel repetitive?
Like, I think Shadow of War does a really good job of that. Yeah. Of like, I've played through that game several times, and even in my most recent playthrough, I'm still encountering stuff that like I've never seen before. Like, stuff that's just crazy.
Yeah. So there's several different just base types of enemies, right? Like you got the javelin throwers, the beefy dudes,
the
and then they have
assassins.
specific strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
Like some
And
guys you just can't stealth assassinate at all. Other guys you want to take like mounted animals to fight them.
there
You always got
was
to switch
one
it up.
guy who had a fear of being enraged, and he was enraged by like uh being like having fear.
Does that mean he just scares
So
himself when he's mad?
yeah, so
like
like
a
you
like a
would
Hulk
like
type character?
attack him, and then you'd get him there. It's like the feared status where like they start to run away and you can recruit them. So when
Yeah.
he became feared, he then became enraged, which then caused him to become feared again, which then caused him to become enraged again. It was just like this loop of like he
How
just
does
kind
that
of stuck.
resolve?
I just killed him,
Oh.
but
Well, yeah, that'll do it.
yeah. So I mean, it's definitely one of those things. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how this tech works and if they're able to make this huge distinguished roster of people uh, actually feel distinguished. Like I'm curious as to if you and me play at the same time, we'll get to a certain part and say, "Hey, did you recruit Billy?" And whether or not we have the same
Specifically
Billy. Yeah,
I
like
want to
maybe-
recruit entirely old people
yeah,
and just have my legion of septuagenarians just to
They have-
wreak havoc.
funny animations for the old people. Like they're old, so they
Yeah.
like hobble over, like they like roll over like the parts that you could normally parkour. Instead of like jumping over, they're just like they grab onto the side, and just like roll their body, and I think that's very funny, and I'm excited. That's I don't know. I want to do that.
It sounds hilarious. That's
Um,
definitely going to be on my radar.
Yeah,
know when it's
it
gonna come
looks
out?
exciting. It was supposed to come out. So interestingly enough, it was supposed to come out a week before. No, a month after Cyberpunk's original release date, and then they delayed it. My guess was to get away from Cyberpunk because they're like similar aesthetic wise. So they were like, let's get away from this big game that everyone's anticipating. And then Cyberpunk delayed to about the same time Watch Dogs delayed.
Yeah.
So then Watch Dogs was like, we're delayed indefinitely. We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah,
Because
it's...
there's no matter how good the game is, there's no way they can compete with Cyberpunk.
And like, I don't think the games are going to be that similar. But to the common person who walks into a store, they're going to see two games with future tech.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, Cyberpunk is the one I want to pick because, I mean, it's the heavy hitter. It's the big known game at the moment.
I know personally, I buy a new game, like a new AAA game, maybe every couple months or so.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Watch Dogs Legions, even if it does get good reviews and it looks really interesting, if it comes out near Cyberpunk, I'm just going to buy Cyberpunk and play that for a few months, and then maybe pick up Legions sometime after that.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty excited for it.
But
I will almost definitely pick it up close to launch day, just because like I very much enjoyed the previous two, even though most other people didn't. That being said, Cyberpunk is currently the top of my list right now. Like
that is my number one hyped game this year.
Well,
really
it's my
hope it
number 2
delivers on the
now.
Promises.
Now that Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales has been announced for this year, I just so good. But as of now, that's all the games that we know from Ubisoft that are upcoming. They've also announced that they plan to release, I think it's 6 games before like June of next year. So like that's probably a lot of these games. That's probably like Just Dance. So we'll see, but Ubisoft definitely has a big couple quarters coming up soon. So
Just Cause isn't Ubisoft, is it?
no, I just
it.
always get it mixed up. Just Cause is
Square Enix?
Avalanche, who's published by Square Enix.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because that game kind of feels like a Ubisoft game, like their style.
yeah. I definitely think Just Cause and Far Cry draw influence from one another in a lot of regards.
Like very
Chaotic,
hectic,
over the top. Yeah.
not at all realistic type of just guns blazing.
Wait, you're telling me if I'm free falling towards the ground and then grapple hook towards the ground, it doesn't reset my momentum?
No, I'm saying it does reset your momentum.
No, I'm asking in real life. You're saying that that's not true, that game lied to me?
No, it's honestly less of a game, more of a physics simulator, where I actively encourage you to go try some of the stunts.
Oh, okay. We'll
You
see. We'll
should
see
do
what I
that at
can do.
home.
But ladies and gentlemen, that all brings us now to the infamous Gemini Kast Question Cup, where every week on my show, the guest hosts will work together while also competing in the cup. At the end of the calendar year, the guest who has the most points is going to win a special surprise. My contestants will have 20 yes or no questions to guess a video game character, location, or item that I am thinking of, and they may only take one guess as to what the actual answer is. So you can't give multiple guesses as to what the actual noun is.
Okay.
You all are, my viewers are welcome to submit suggestions to the question cup to me at geminikast@gmail.com, GEMINIKAST @gmail.com, just like our friend and previous host, Liz Rizvanoli did. So I have the noun, and you may begin questioning whenever you would like.
All right. So Liz made this, or gave you this.
Mm-hmm.
Does it count as a question?
No.
Oh, it's just me this week. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah, but if you get it, then you're automatically the first person at 2 points.
That's true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, is this from a Ubisoft game?
No.
No. Is it from a Nintendo game?
No.
Is it... I'm trying to think of other studios. And you're sure it's something that I know, right?
I'm positive it's something you know.
Okay. Is it from a PS4 game?
No, this game does not appear on PS4. Sorry, I had to think about it.
Is it a PC exclusive?
I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint here, okay?
Okay.
It is not a PC exclusive. It is heavily associated with PC, though.
Is it on Xbox?
Yes, it is on the Xbox.
Is it from Halo?
No.
Well, dang, I don't have an Xbox. So I don't know what kind of Xbox games there are.
Well, I didn't say it was an Xbox exclusive.
That's true, but I'm trying to think of a game that's on PC, but not PS4, and also on Xbox.
You didn't... I want to clarify something else. You did not ask me if it is on the Xbox One, so...
Is it on Xbox One?
No.
Did you answer?
No, it is not.
Okay, I couldn't hear. So it's something older. Is it on the 360?
It is.
Is it from Skyrim?
No.
Darn. I thought I was onto something there. How many questions is this?
You are at 9 questions.
9 questions, okay. Feeling really dumb. Let me think. So, is it from Splinter Cell?
No.
That was a Ubisoft franchise.
I'll give you that question back since you already knew it was a Ubisoft.
Okay, yeah, I didn't think before I asked it. Well, dang. This is tough. Is it from a game that you know I've played?
You have definitely played it.
Is it a character? Can I ask that?
No, it is not a character.
Is it a place?
It is not a place.
Is it an item?
Are you sure you want to ask me that, considering it can only be a person, place, or thing?
It could be an abstract idea, but no, don't ask you that. Okay, is it a weapon?
Kind of. I'm not going to answer that. That's not going to count as a question. I would not call it a weapon, but I also don't want that to throw you off.
Okay. And you said earlier it was not a Nintendo game, right?
No.
Okay. So kind of a weapon. So it's some kind of item then.
Dang,
not knowing what franchise it's from is difficult. Is it something from Star Wars?
No.
Man. Is it from... Actually, never mind. So it's not on PS4.
Nope.
And if it's not on Xbox One, is it on like a previous PlayStation?
Yeah, it's on the PS. Ooh, that's not a yes or no answer. Yes.
The PS Foo?
Yes, it is on a previous PlayStation.
Okay. That was throwing me off. I should have just asked PlayStation in the beginning. I didn't think about newer games. Man, this is hard.
You have 6 questions, so 5 questions and a guess.
Dang. Okay. Is it... Man. And we said not Ubisoft. Is it from anything related to Lord of the Rings?
No.
No. Dang. I'm
That
running
is
out of...
15.
What games
4
have I
questions
even
and a
played?
guess.
This always happens. I just forget everything I know about all games.
Yeah, that's an issue.
I don't know, man. Can I get like a hint, or is that cheating?
Let's see. Focus more on it is a PC game.
It's a PC game. And you said I've definitely played it.
You have definitely played it.
Is it from Doom?
Nope.
Oh, if Liz came up with that, I thought for sure it might be from Doom. Dang. Well, I guess that was on PS4.
Oh, I just assumed you were talking about classic Doom on the NES.
I mean, also that. Wasn't the new one like a remake? So,
I mean, I guess.
I suppose.
3 questions and a guess.
And I haven't narrowed down what game it's from. It's not looking good, boys.
I still think you could get this.
Okay. Gotta think. Is it from Witcher?
Nope.
Darn. What games have I played? Is it from Valorant?
Nope.
Damn.
1 question and a guess.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm trying to think of the games that Liz has played.
I will give you one last hint.
Okay.
It is definitely a Liz game.
What does that mean?
It is a game that Liz very much likes.
Is it from Risk of Rain?
No.
Dang. Well, I don't know, dude.
Okay, you have a guess. What do you think it is? Just shoot in the dark.
Is it the Master Sword?
Is that your final guess?
No. It's not from Nintendo. I don't know any more games.
I think you're gonna kick yourself for it.
I definitely will. I'm about to look stupid.
Okay, you ready for me to
I
reveal
give
it?
up. Just tell me.
Okay. I'm gonna give you some clues going to it. This is not gonna count for any points, but when you get it, just say it, okay?
Okay.
Released first in 2007 with a sequel in 2011, this game is published by Valve and has you dealing with physics-based puzzles.
Portal?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the companion cube?
No, it's the Portal Gun.
Portal gun?
Yeah, Portal Gun.
Oh, man.
And
I
you
could've
have
guessed
definitely played Portal.
Oh, I am kicking myself.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Liz. It looks like Josh will not take an early lead in the Gemini Kast Question Cup. But you can always join us next week where we're going to have our 3rd round of the Gemini Kast Question Cup with some new hosts. Next week, I am unsure of what our topic is going to be at the moment, but with games like Ghost of Tsushima coming up soon. I definitely would like to do an episode about that. We're also interested in moving into talking about movies and film. We're very interested in the Back to the Future series. If you all have any suggestions for the show at all, please feel free to reach out to me at geminikast@gmail.com, GEMINIKAST@gmail.com, and I will answer any of your questions there. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Josh, for joining me, and we will see you next week.